Sweet friends, how do you do today? And how do you woo today? And how do you woo you today? Welcome to How to Woo, a podcast on love and making love so we can make sure we're making lives we love. I am your host, Luna Robbie. I am a multi-artist and creative guide obsessed with learning about life, especially from other humans direct, because we all have our own unique perspective and wisdom. So here we are again for some deep listening and a little vicrophilia so we can stay excited about life and co-create a world where taking care of each other is the norm. Let's dive in. Our guest today is a 49-year-old straight dude who is into travel, sports, music, and women, and like me, he's into work. In media and public relations, and his clients have also included some of the largest businesses, celebrities, and music acts in the world, including some very sexy ones. With us today, president of BSG PR, welcome, Brian Scott Gross.
I like to
Hi.
wave.
Hi, thanks for
Feels more
waving.
personal.
Thanks for being here. How you doing today?
Thanks for having me. I'm wonderful. How are you?
I am super wonderful. I am woohoo excited that you are here. Could you start off by telling us, how do you woo yourself?
So I'm an active person. So literally, I just got out of my 6 o'clock yoga sculpt class, which I take every night.
Love that.
And so for me, it's all about activity. I get into my office, I walk every morning, and then I go to yoga sculpt. And before the pandemic, I was playing all the sports I've played my whole life. And that just sort of shifted. I've run 4 marathons, a ton of half marathons. I've done some of those crazy Spartan races. For me, it's activity. It's active. It's keeping my mind going because, like you, being someone who loves their work and, for lack of a better term, addicted to it, I need physical activity. So
Awesome.
I would consider that my woo in that regard.
Oh, I love that. Okay. Piggybacking off that question, how would you say your work helps people love and or woo themselves?
You know, my work, when I had the opportunity to get into the adult industry and be a publicist for Vivid Entertainment, which at the time was the largest adult entertainment company in the world, it was all about communication. It was all about, you know, adult film in the late 90s, early 2000s was still so taboo. And I had this opportunity to take what I did for 6 years in the music industry and put it towards the biggest adult film stars and the biggest company. And this person, Stephen Hirsch, who created this brand and this company and just built and built and built. And I got to be a part of it. So I think the biggest part of wooing is communication, if not the biggest part. Whatever, however it is, physical, verbal, touch, it's all forms, right?
Yeah.
So that's where it just came to me where it was like, and I was fairly young at the time, where I was like, let's go, let's do this. So don't know if it's a perfect answer in this regard, but to me, it always comes down to communication.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there are no perfect answers here, and we're just noodling on all things and kind of talking
I
about
love
all
it.
of it.
Let's do it.
So I am curious though, because for me, communication is a huge part of my own personal connection with other people in all forms. It's my little obsession. But I'm curious, what does it take for someone else to woo you? Like, how would another person romance you?
You know, I'll never forget. I used to do musicals when I was in high school. And I did a summer musical one year. And this really, really cute girl kept punching me in the arm. Just, she just kept hitting me in the arm. And I was like, why is this girl hitting me? And I didn't think anything of it, my naivete and youth and whatnot, until a long while later, they were like, so and so really likes you. I'm like, well, why does she hit me? That was just her way. And it was one of my first memories of sort of the opposite wooing aspect. It certainly has been aggressive in my
Mm.
life because I have, for lack of a better term, fallen into relationships over my lifetime where I'd meet someone, we'd connect and just go with the flow and go for it. So the wooing on the opposite sex end has been however it may be, but I've always tried my best not to force anything or just try and make it. We're doing this. You know, it was all honestly sometimes the opposite, where the person would be like, Are we doing this? And I'd be like, let's go. Let's see where this goes. And so there's been a lot of journeys since my late teens in that regard.
I love that. You have work where you support creatives of many type, artists of many type in their
Correct.
work. To me, that's romantic. I'm learning that work is kind of my love language along with food. If I can eat food while working, then I'm the happiest girl in the whole wide world. But how do you think your work helps other people woo each other? And I could see this from the client to audience perspective, but also like audiences together. Like, how do you think about that at all? Like, how your work creates romance between other people in the world? I'm all about ripples of love on this planet.
I wish I did. I mean, I don't because I'm so in the trenches. I'm
Mhm.
so forced for the trees. My daily grind, like yours, is putting your head down and it's the hustle and the endless hustle. And I think you brought up a great point. Romanticizing your work is important because people want to preach this work-life balance. But what if we love what we do? Like, what if we're, enthralled? What if I come into my office on Christmas Day and get some work done? Like, if it makes me happy, isn't that my right? So the thought that I'm the consumer, the other end of whomever client it is. Let's take Maitland Ward, who's a client of mine, and she's a phenomenal human being, and she creates these incredible adult scenes and films through the Vixen Media Group, and the people on the other end that are enjoying it together, solo, what have you, if they're enjoying it and she enjoys making it and I enjoy promoting it, then we all win, don't we? I mean, that's the ultimate end game in that regard. Is when the final product, whatever it may be, is enjoyable and personal to those who are receiving it.
Yeah. Yeah. We are very sex work friendly here. I have many friends who work in different aspects of the industry. What do you say when people say things to you like, for example, one of my friends who works at one of the legal brothels had a client who was young. He was there to have his first experience with her, and then partway through their connection, he asked if he could step into the other room to watch some porn on his phone so they could get harder so that they could actually like do the deed. When people like bring that your way, what do you say to them? Like, how do you kind of like handle that? Because, porn is such a big topic and it's not one thing.
That's something that I didn't see coming. No pun intended. I didn't see, I'm Gen X.
Hmm.
We remember our very first memories of being in the Albertsons and someone grabs the adult magazine and shows you a pair of tits.
Yeah.
You never forget that moment. It is there. You never forget the scrambled Playboy channel. You never forget Midnight Blue from Australia on Playboy if your parents had it and you sneak down and watch it, right? But it was inaccessible. You had to go get it. I never saw a world where it was so in your face. And there's positive and negative. And certainly, I think some of the challenges right now are exactly that. Person X thinks pornography is real or needs to build up something to then get to the reality. I guess I'm selfish in the manner of I've never had that issue in the aspect of the real thing will always be my favorite. It will always. The
Yeah.
personal touch, from the littlest to the wild. So for a young man, I mean, these are the challenges, and so certainly do not have the answer to that. And I think things are going to continue in a certain path. But ultimately, one of our biggest challenges is in this country alone, where we look down upon sexuality. We have crazy abortion laws coming to shape, and where you have powers that be that want to manipulate and control one's sexuality. Ironically, those are the states where pornography is viewed the most
Yeah.
and sex toys are sold the most. So we're very ass backwards and it's disappointing. And again, I just go back to my core of communicate, talk about it. but we're going to have challenges with young adults. And certainly there's this incel aspect. It's going to come down to, sitting people down, making people feel comfortable. When people find out what I do for a living, who I've worked with, and so on, which I have now for over 25 years, it opens doors. People feel more relaxed. Now I get the opposite too. I get the dirty looks as well in my life. I've certainly gotten the negative. But the positive is so and so sitting down next to me, man or woman, and telling me a story. Because all of a sudden, because of what I do for a living, and mind you, I'm a publicist, okay? I'm not a
Oh, yeah.
performer.
Yeah.
I'm not a gigolo. But because I'm around it, because I work so closely with those involved, there's a comfortability factor. Wouldn't it be nice if you could just have that with anyone?
Well, I'm lucky I do. I hope so too. I want it for more people because I mean, I like you receive stories from people left, right. Were you always that comfortable or was it something that you developed through your work?
I think I always was. I mean, I was a late bloomer. I didn't lose my virginity till 20.
Mm.
And I remember my very first ejaculation, and it was rubbing against a bed, for Christ's sake. So, my introduction was, it's the classic stories, Um, so in that regard, for whatever reason, as soon as puberty hit and I liked girls, it was fairly comfortable. But, it was so different. It was such a different time. So I mean, you had your different challenges and what was going on in your body and people around you and so on and so forth. But I was always outgoing. I was a choir boy. I had a music scholarship. I was part of Junior Statesman. So speaking in public, doing things like this, talking to people, never a problem. I was never shy in that regard. That when I discovered my career at 17, funny enough, it was like, oh, this is a no brainer. I'm going to talk to people and promote shit for the rest of my life. I'm in. Count me in. So I think it just went from loving music to loving promoting adult content, and it went off from there. So, and everything in between, frankly. So, very comfortable in that regard.
I love that. Okay. Ooh, I have too many follow-up questions. But actually, can we circle back to that bed? Was it like on the mattress or was it like the frame of the
Oh my
bed?
gosh. It was my bed in my bedroom at the house I grew up in, and her name was Samantha. And the funny thing about Samantha is she was an ice skater, right? So she had these massive thighs, right? Because she was strong. And I thought I was rubbing against her as it was dry humping for what it's worth. And then it happened, and I looked down. I was rubbing against the side of my bed the whole time. I was so lost, right? I'm making out.
We don't know
I
until
was
we know.
I was like, and then it happened, and you're like, wait, I feel different. What just happened? So it was pure accident of me thinking I was rubbing against her leg, which of course sounds gross as well, or immature,
No,
or what
I
have you.
think dry humping is a terrible name and it's one of my favorite things in the whole wide world.
It is fun.
It's so
It is
fun.
so much fun. I
Yeah.
agree. I'm glad we agree.
Yeah.
But it was an aspect of like, it happened. I looked down, and but the whole time I was rubbing against the bed. Not her, the bed.
That's very funny. Wait, that was your very first ejaculation, so you didn't even discover touching yourself yet at that point?
No, I was so
Wow.
late to masturbation. It's hysterical.
Okay.
And I'm so grateful that I was so late to that game. Literally discovered it the summer going into college. How about that? Didn't masturbate in high school. And I'm I thank God every day. Because Lord knows, as sexual as I am, what it would be like if I had started like, I don't know, seventh, eighth grade. Like, yes, I had erections. I had no idea what to do with them, and I didn't try, thank the Lord. And so it was just again late to the game, but very grateful in that regard.
Oh, that's so interesting. Okay. I happen to know that you work with one of my favorite companies, Veducated, who past guest, we have an affiliate link description below if you guys are curious. To kind of circle back to what you were talking about communication, I talk to so many people who don't know how to communicate. What have you learned about sexual communication through your work and or through any educational clients that you've had, like sex educational?
Well, and Educate is an incredible client I've worked with for now, almost a year, and I've just enjoyed working with them so much, actually over a year, because such wonderful people, so open-minded, and so up for the challenge of trying to build a brand in a world that, they get their pushback. So, I mean, I'm really proud to work with them. The word I will always go to is fearless, because in order to get your message across, and in this day and age when we're just inundated with so much messaging, you have to be fearless. And when you're dealing with sex, sexuality, and anything of it, you have to be fearless. You have to not be afraid of offending. You have to not be afraid of pushing the envelope. You have to not be afraid. And in order to accomplish what your goals are, you can't be tepid. You can't be, I'm going to use the word snowflake. Sorry for those offended, but you can't be a snowflake. You have to be strong. You have to be determined. And that's how you get your point across.
Wait, sorry. What does a snowflake mean here? You melt easily, or you look different and then you melt?
Well, in the common term, a snowflake is someone who gets offended easily.
Oh,
And so if I'm speaking or if I'm promoting something with the fear of offending you, I'm not going to accomplish what my clients want me to accomplish. So when I offend you, upset you, piss you off, so and so, hey, my skin is thick. I can handle that. That's part of the deal for my profession and what I've chosen. But you have to be fearless, knowing that you might offend someone. And I've offended plenty of people over decades. And I'm still here and I'm still grinding. So less grinding on my bed, fortunately, but more grinding in the work and more just pushing the envelope. And that's where that company, Educated, is really doing some incredible work.
it's so interesting because I started this podcast wanting to create a space where people could talk about sex more because I noticed during the Me Too explosion that people really didn't know, they were not very comfortable talking about sex. And I'm a person who has grown up not being very afraid of stuff my whole life. And people are like, you should be afraid. You should be afraid. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I'll get afraid when I'm scared. However, I have run into like some severe censorship issues, like stumbled just head first. How have you experienced censorship, if at all, especially over the past, you've been here decades and a half?
Daily battle. It's a daily battle for my clients. It's a daily battle. And it will always be a battle. It'll be a battle in America and it'll be a battle in certain countries. It will always be a battle in humanity. You're always going to be censored, or someone's going to try to censor you, or big tech is going to censor you. And you adjust, you pivot, you figure it out, you try things work, things fail. You just don't give up. That's the thing. You just don't give up. You're gonna have setbacks. You're gonna have 4 steps forward, 2 steps back. But you have, because the goalposts are constantly being moved. And so I have a client all the time. There's the email. My Instagram was taken down, my Facebook, my Twitter, my Snap, my YouTube. And we want to go, just tell us the rules. And they're constantly moved
Yeah.
because it's about money. Sad but true. And so, like you mentioned, a Call Her Daddy, which is a massive brand and has grown incredibly. They're going to be treated different. Certain advertising, certain people, certain celebrities, they're not going to face certain things. They'll have their other challenges. Don't get me wrong. It's a daily battle. You're going to keep fighting it. You're going to fight through it. You're going to have your days of absolute frustration, but you're not going to quit. And that's all you can do. Don't quit, adjust, figure it out. Don't let those days get you down. Celebrate the days where you fight through some of that censorship. But I unfortunately have to break the news that it's not going the way. So we're going to continue.
Do you have any specific things that you have figured out? I know it's moving targets, but also it's like it seems like there is
No.
something. No.
The answer is no. Let me just cut you
Okay.
off. Yeah. I have nothing in that. And every so often I get an email or a phone call and I just shake my head and go, I have no idea what's happening now.
Do you still work with some mainstream clients, or is it mostly
Yeah.
sex work with
No,
okay.
yeah, absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
do you see a difference with how sexy a non-sex work related person can be compared to some of like adult companies or performers?
So blurred. It's so
Interesting.
blurred.
Okay.
It's hard to say. It's blurred. I wish I had a concrete answer and I just don't.
Yeah, yeah.
And no one does. The only person you could sit down with right now and have this conversation, or people, would be Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, and Evan, the owner of Snap. And those are the ones in control. They have that power. It's on them ultimately. And they are the deciding factor when it comes to this stuff. It's fascinating because we're so fearful of the government censorship, and this and that. It's like, not really. Not really. Because so many doors have been opened, it's almost impossible to go back, and we're protected by a First Amendment, right? And we can only just keep praying that we keep being protected by a First Amendment, which both sides want to protect just in their own ways. It's big tech. They have the power. They make the decisions. And ultimately, you and I are like a spaceship going through asteroids. Let's try not to get knocked up by an asteroid. Let's just avoid getting hit. Right at this, like, the spaceship's going to keep moving forward, and that's all you can do. And I wish I had better answers, and I'd love for people to come on and give you better answers than I have. But I've had plenty of conversations, and for most part, we just push through when things go sideways in that regard.
Dang, I was really hoping you would have like the perfect piece of wisdom that would solve my trials and tribulations. But okay, well, we'll just have to
I
keep talking
let you
about.
down.
No, I'm just ever hopeful. I'm like very big hopeful. Okay, so back to work slash also your life. Like you love your work. What else do you love in life? And then like what do you love about your work the most? Like what makes you go woo work wise, but also in life?
Well, we'll do that first. I mean, when my clients are happy, I'm happy. And when things are going great with my clients, I'm ecstatic. And so little victories are so important. And I always say, when I can't enjoy the little victories anymore, it's time to stop. Little
Mm.
victories are massive.
What's an example of a little victory?
A piece of press coming out on a client that's positive, an interview that goes really well, maybe something we work on goes viral, whatever it may be, or it's just that email from a client who's happy with what's going on or is sharing some great news. Those are the little victories. And the bigger victories are, you know, cover the New York Times business section for a client I had years ago, or something with Howard Stern back in the day when we would do more with him. So, I mean, there's been all types of victories, big and small. And what that allows me to do is, it allows me to travel, allows me to experience the world. And that's what's really important to me. I've had a lot of incredible worldly experiences. Um, uh, every birthday since my 40th, I've spent outside the country in one way, shape, or form, somewhere exotic and unique. So I'm a big fan of going. I'm just constantly, I've got my travel plans tentative for next spring, and I'm excited about. And I love great food. I love great beaches. I love great sunsets. I love being around people from all over the world and those experiences. And work allows me to do that. And
Yeah.
so it's a little bit of that work hard, play hard aspect.
Okay. I love that. I mean, I feel like my mom always said, make your work your play and you'll never have to work a day in your life. And I think I took it like a little too deep to heart, more so than she ever thought possible. But it's, I totally get that. Can I ask when your birthday is? What sign are you?
I am a Virgo, September 4th.
Ooh, okay.
So I'm a Labor Day birthday, which is beautiful because I get that extra day to sort of travel wherever I want to.
Oh, I love
And
that.
I didn't let the pandemic stop me either. I found the one island open September of 20 that I went to.
Good for you.
Tested and everything, but it was amazing.
That's awesome. Oh my gosh, that's so cool. I would love to hear about your professional origin story. You started at Vivid Entertainment, or was that just the first sexy one? Because you
That's the
started,
first sex.
okay, because you were 17 and you were like, music.
Yeah. I was I was taking out my CD collection and calling record labels, and no one would touch a 17-year-old. Here's a funny story. It was a Sunday night. Took out a CD from an artist who was on A&M Records and located in Hollywood, California. A&M Records was on the old Charlie Chaplin lot, right? And I was going to leave a message. Hey, my name's Brian Gross. I'm looking for an internship. Thank you so much. Here's my phone number if someone can call me back, right? And that's what I would do. And I knew that's sort of what to do. So Sunday night, I'm like, there's going to be a voicemail. I'll leave a message. This guy picks up. He goes, hello? And it totally caught me off guard. And I go, hey, my name's Brian Gross. I'm a senior in high school. I'm looking for an internship. And he cuts me off. He goes, the fuck are you doing calling me right now? It's a fucking Sunday night. Why are you calling here on a Sunday? And I go, click. I go, whatever that was, that was awesome. I want that. So I proceeded to call labels. I got rejected because they wouldn't touch high schoolers. And then I called Deaf American Recordings. I had like a Black Crow CD, or maybe it was a Danzig, it was something. And the person who answered the phone was the last hiring at the company. And the last hiring would cover for the receptionist during the lunch hour. I think I went home from school and called during the lunch hour. She was in the publicity department. I went down, interviewed, and 3 days a week, I would intern at Deaf American. If that person worked in any other department, my life would be completely different. But she was in public relations, and she's still my best friend of, she's this almost 32 years.
Wow.
And that's how it started. So no one understood in my high school what the hell I was doing. Taking my 81 Mazda 626, driving from Newbury Park, California to Burbank 3 days a week to make press kits and meet these unbelievable like childhood hero type musicians and whatnot, and learn the tricks in the trade. And I did that from February of 93 until I left for college in August.
Do you identify as a person who has like good people skills?
I'd like to think so. And they're always tested. And like tonight is one of those. Just wasn't in the mood. Just wanted to go in and do my yoga and get the fuck out.
Yeah.
So this one guy pulls his mat next to me. Hey, can he make room? And he's a great guy. But I just didn't want to chat with him. So he pulled up next to me, and I'm just like, hey, man. And he kind of got my vibe of like, all right, we're just gonna do it. We're just gonna get through this class and do our thing. But I'm gonna say yes with confidence, but knowing that it's challenging and it changes. And we've had dramatic COVID and post-COVID and tech changes with how we deal with other humans in different generations. I'm Gen X, so we've got younger generations that we deal with accordingly, and they communicate in different ways than I grew up communicating. So there's a lot of adjusting, and I'll use that word a lot, to how I communicate with people and how I put people's skills to work.
I love examples, especially if you're like, here's what I noticed with my youngest clients. Here's what I noticed with the medium millennials. Like, is there a difference that you notice that's articulatable?
Oh my gosh. Let's just go to the dating apps. Okay. Let's just go right there.
Okay.
Because when I'm on them, I remember I was on one in a period I was single. And I was in a relationship, and then there was a couple breakups, right? And so in those breakups, thinking we wouldn't get back together, I'd go on one of the apps, right? And I just remember I'm texting, through the app, and I'm like, hey, here's my phone number if you want to talk, blah, blah. And literally, I think we started texting, right? And I called her. She didn't answer. And she texted me, goes, oh, I don't talk on the phone. And I was like, wow, okay.
Okay. It's so funny you say that because literally recently I was like, wait a second. I love dating like the 48 to 52-year-old range because they just give me calls instead of these text messages. I'm 35. And so, like, that's a thing. That's a thing.
My favorite line, and it's so whatever, but I'll literally say, "Hey, I'm using the device for its original reason or its original method." Look at me going, or I'm like, "Hey, I'm gonna go old school. I'm gonna call you.
I
I
say
hope
that
that's okay."
too. No, I'm like, I'm pretty old school. I would prefer to you just call me when you're available. If I'm available, I'll pick up. If not, I will call you back because I hate like setting times to talk unless it's a podcast recording. I'm like, could we just do the phone?
Yeah, I think, but in a serious manner, when you have something serious to talk about with someone, don't do it on text.
Yeah,
Call, talk. Obviously, in person is the most ideal, eye contact and everything. Otherwise, call. Get to a place where you're not distracted. I can't tell you, and you might be as guilty as I am, of the amount of arguments and just the negative discussions that have taken place via text in one's life that really could have been resolved if they were done verbally,
yeah,
And I think there's definitely a fear in the aspect of if we get away from that, if we get away from eye contact, we get away from talking verbally, if we get away from physical connection, a hug, touching someone, we have some serious issues in that regard that we're going to be dealing with, you know?
totally.
So I just think it's important. And so the texting aspect of life, yeah, it's great for memes and this and that, blah, blah,
I
blah,
like
blah.
it for logistics.
Yeah, absolutely. I even like audio notes. I think audio notes become
Sure.
very useful and
Yeah.
helpful. If you don't have the ability to talk to someone or they're busy or whatnot, sending an audio note helps. But man, the texting is very unhelpful in many ways. And so like I said, I try to use it, but you notice in different generations how they communicate. I was
Yeah.
talking to my friend, he said his daughter and all her friends were talking about 12 and 13-year-olds, they're all Snap. Everything's your Snap.
Mm.
They're like, okay. And he's got all the parental guards, and I feel for him and his wife because, good God, you've got to put all this stuff on to protect your children from unwanted people getting to them.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a serious thing. So it's very, you've adjusted, I mean, you and I, listen, I'll say one word, AOL, or maybe it's free, AOL chat room. They were the bomb. They were so much fun. Oh my goodness. They were
What
the
did you
best.
experience? Did you ever experience sexy things in there, or was it just
Oh,
regular? Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. And just meeting incredible women and conversation. They were so much fun because they were new
Mm.
and they were unknown and they hadn't been tested by sort of evil nature or evil ways.
Right.
So they were great. I met a few relationships through them. So it was great. But I know there's the common discussion how meeting people via apps and whatnot, though it's becomes over 90% of how strangers meet in this regard, it's become very tiresome.
Yeah.
And I think we're just too distracted. We're really distracted these days. So if something doesn't keep our attention, we lose it really quickly. And I'm as guilty as anybody in that
Mm.
regard.
Yeah, I'm kind of opposite. I'm a hyper focuser. And as a person who struggles to read social signals, even when I have all the signals in front of me, I had to learn that text message lesson pretty early on. But do you ever meet people in person, or
Yeah.
is it mostly okay? Yeah,
No, yeah, absolutely. And I love meeting people in person. And,
that's my favorite.
beauty of travel is doing that. The
Yeah.
beauty of eating at a bar and a restaurant in a foreign country. It's usually there's a good tendency you're going to get into a conversation with someone. People who travel know people who travel. And there's a communication there that's pretty special. So yeah. Um, Less so. I mean, yeah, here at home I'll meet for coffee or a drink or dinner or whatnot. Certainly, absolutely. Um, I do enjoy it more in foreign countries. I definitely enjoy it more when you're just in that surrounding of a different place and you and that other person. And sometimes they're locals, don't get me wrong. But I'm a big fan of that type of interaction. You know, I'll go to dinner alone. I went to dinner alone. I took a trip to Puerto Vallarta for Thanksgiving and had three wonderful dinners. And I met people at the restaurant that I was at and had wonderful conversations. People aren't afraid to talk to someone if you're in that same setting. You know, it's like we're both here for the same reason. Enjoy this beautiful setting, enjoy this incredible food. We both, whoever it may be, discovered this place. So we know it's good. You know, I'm bougie in that regard. So I'm going to go to really nice restaurants when I travel.
Absolutely.
So whoever's there is going to be people that are on your wavelength.
I love that. I love meeting people wherever I go. I am a person that will like strike up a conversation because when I was traveling solo long term in 2016, I learned to take myself out on dates and to talk to people wherever I go. And I think that that's I don't know. That's there is also something about the travel thing that's a little bit. Well, here's a question. Do you think it's romantic? I'm trying to figure out what exactly is romantic, and I know it's also a moving target. But do you think that like meeting people when traveling because there's that kind of like ephemeral we're not necessarily going to be here is that romantic to you? Or what do you think romantic is?
Have we not all watched after before sunrise and before
Oh,
sunset? Ethan, I mean, come on, come on, of course, give it. It is. There's a romanticism to it. And I think you come into it if you're single with a romanticism. Are you going to? And
mm,
yes, there have been plenty of trips, plenty of experiences, God bless it, where I've been fortunate to meet someone and
yeah,
enjoy an experience with said person. And whether it continues or whether it ends, what have you, so be it. But yes, 100%.
okay, so I would love to hear what is sexy to you?
Wow. I think it's the unknown. I think it's that feeling. I think it's something that you just, when your skin, when the hair stands up, when you just have a reaction. And it, you know, it can come, listen, the food versus sex debate is amazing. Right? I always love that one because I've had great food and I've had great sex. But it's a feeling and a reaction. And whatever it is to each his own. For me to label it specifically would be unendearing to so many people. But for me, it's that unknown. You know, I think it's the unknown. It's the eyes locking. It's the smile. It's the potential touch. It's the potential whatever it may be, whatever the excursion or whatever the environment, whatever may occur. All of that has the potential of sexiness and enticement and excitement.
Yeah,
And so I'm a big fan of that unknown aspect.
yeah.
You know, it's pretty exciting.
Totally. I'm a big fan of novelty, which is for me a big unknown. And I bet through your work, I would imagine that you are exposed to many different types or definitions of sexy, right? Like you probably see a whole array.
Yeah, I mean, I'm around people who have whatever their sexiness is to sell per
Yeah.
se, but also whatever it is. Yeah, no, I've seen so much and so many different kinds, and it's definitely exciting in that regard. And it just conjures up so many stories and memories.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely, absolutely seen the widest variety, and it's fun. That part's a lot of fun.
Okay, if you had to rate yourself on a sexual shame-o-meter with 10 being super full of shame and 0 being like, I don't have any, I would love to hear where you fall today and how it has shame coaster squiggled over the years, especially if work is a part of that at all for you.
I'll never say I'm one. There's a two or three. There's
Okay.
always going to be. I can be pretty vanilla in that regard, but it definitely was nine. It was definitely like, I don't know how this works. What am I doing? It
Okay.
was definitely a teenager collecting hugs and thinking a good day was how many girls I hugged that day. And then, but there's always a two or three, and there's always self doubt.
Mm,
There's the Virgo mentality of pleasing the other versus
mm,
yourself, right? That's
yeah.
very big with Virgos, and I'm certainly akin to that. But and then there's like, yeah, there's it's never one. It's three, two or three in that regard. But it started at 10. That's for damn sure.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, the beautiful gift of Virgo is they are devotional refiners. They can look at something and edit it. And that can veer into the hypercritical too, and it could be very self-focused hypercritical too. But
You have to send me that. That was brilliant, dude. Say that again.
they're devotional refiners. That Virgo is they at the harshest they can be the critic, the self-critic, but they are worshipers. They're some of the best worshipers because there's that concrete groundedness that comes with the willingness to tend. They're there for the harvest, so they're like, "I'll see you through." There's a patience.
Yeah, and the
Um,
worshiping can be good in that because
yeah.
you give
Yes.
and then you feel depleted.
Oh
And
yeah.
if the person doesn't replenish you, that's where a Virgo can be like, ciao, give
Yeah.
me something. You don't have to give me as much as I give you, but give me something.
Yeah, there's
Or
got to be a balance. Well, and I'm a Taurus, so I'm another earth sign, and I have learned through trial and tribulation that sometimes, especially like air or water signs, think that they're giving me stuff, and I'm like, this is nothing. Like I don't feel anything here, so finding that balance with someone where I can experience the gift they're giving me.
I've had my run in with Geminis and Libras
Oh yeah.
and Cancers. And
Oh yeah.
that's a whole that's a whole other rain going there.
Well, it's funny because like for me, I can get along with fire signs super, people who have that strong passion. I'm like, yeah, passion, touch me, that's concrete. But for sometimes I'm like, it's just a lot of words floating around up there, or like those are big feelings, and like you're throwing them at me, and it's not, so I know that I totally know what you feel or what you mean in finding that balance, that needing to receive too. What are some of your favorite ways to receive from a partner?
I mean, I love the simplest of things. I don't need much. And I say that in this regard. Touch is important.
Yeah.
Uh, boy, it's an interesting question right now for me because there's some memory and recollection going on based on something that ended earlier this year.
Mm,
Um, in the aspect of like, what's missing right now? And it's like these little things. I've always felt like I don't need much. Now, there might be past partners that would totally disagree,
mm,
and I can totally understand why they would. But I'm not a material person in that regard. It just, there's feeling just needing to be loved, right? Pretty basic. Certainly not easy. And I'm definitely not the easiest person. And being a workaholic and being independent, um, and other challenges, they can lead to friction. But I've always thought, hey, just make me feel good and do it in your way. I'm not looking for it have to be specific. It has to be like this.
mm.
No, I want to know. I want you to do it where you're enjoying as much as I'm receiving.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
like to keep it simple, but I know that would if someone from my past listened, they could laugh. They would laugh.
You're
So
totally right.
there's certainly things that I've been a complete bitch, pain in the ass, nightmare. Don't get me wrong, but you know, we've all had our Saturn's return. So there
Yeah.
you go.
They do. Well, if we're at least 28 or 29, we've had a Saturn return. If we're not there yet, we're still getting tested in every house. But this is not an astrology podcast. I would love to hear, how did you learn about sex? We heard about your first ejaculation, your first experience. Did you get any sort of like sex ed ahead of time? Like, take us through your formative timeline, maybe starting with what you remember hearing first.
Let's just go to the car ride. Let's just go to the old man having to have the conversation. I don't remember what age I was, and
Oh,
then
go
I'll
to
give you a
talk.
movie. Then I'll give you a movie. I'll give you two movies. The conversation at night driving on PCH. Why on PCH? I don't know. I don't know where we were going. I don't know where we were coming from. But in your life, you have those moments that you'll
Oh,
never
yeah.
forget. Well, my birds and the bees from the old man was in the car at night, him driving, obviously, and giving me the speech, uncomfortably for him. uncomfortably for me along PCH in like some sort of Buick LeSabre. Who knows? But that was it. So that was that. Then there's two moments. There's two movies. My mom took my brother and I to see the movie Skin Deep, starring John Ritter. 19, God, I want to say 86, 7 or 8, probably 88. You can look it up. And my mom goes to the girl at the thing. I think it was PG-13, which is crazy. If it's R, it should be R. It's crazy. And the girl, my mom goes, "Is this movie okay for two boys?" And she goes, "Yeah, it's fine." Are you familiar with the movie?
I am
You're
not,
familiar
and
with
I'm
the
so
opening
curious. I gotta
scene?
go watch.
The opening scene, John Ritter is getting his hair cut at like a girl's house. And the scene cuts to her cutting the hair, but every time she stops in the scene, there's less clothing. And before you know it, she's stopped. There's also the glow in the dark condom scene, right? It's
Oh,
a terribly horrible movie. So that experience with my mother and my brother in a movie theater. And then the most intense is the movie The Doors, starring Val Kilmer. And my old man and I watched that on the couch, and that warped me for days. That is one of the most intense, that's an intense movie. And there's a lot of sex in that movie. So I could say those three because I don't remember what I learned in high school. For fuck's sake, like
yeah.
I just couldn't tell you what course or what it was. Like I remember how I passed chemistry, but I don't want to admit that. Um, the fact I got a B in chemistry is my greatest achievement ever. But uh, those three things stand out from my youth as far as where did you get your knowledge? And you look back and you're like, Jesus Christ, thank God I'm fucking somewhat normal. Because
Are any
Lord
of us?
knows we're just not, and communication was so weak in that regards,
Mm.
growing up, from family and whatnot. So I mean, those are the three standouts. John
Wow.
Ritter Skin Deep, Val Kilmer in the Doors movie, and The Birds and the Bees Talk on PCH in my with my dad in a Buick.
Okay, and so if you were like an adorable young man who was counting the number of hugs he got to have with girls, well, first of all, it sounds like you were pretty clear on the fact that you were straight. Like, did you always know you were straight?
That's so funny. Yes.
Okay.
However, when you're a choir boy, everyone thinks you're gay.
Yeah.
And so and mind you, there were gay men, young gay men in choir in high school, and we all just made fun of each other, straight, gay, whatever. And we all said some pretty horrible things to each other when you look back. But like, I didn't really understand homosexuality at a
Mm.
young age, just no comprehension. But at the same time, I was called gay because I was in choir. And I was just
Mm.
like, it always just, it never phased me. I was never offended by this or that because, yeah, I'm a fucking skin scrawny kid in choir. Like, that was just sort of that thing. Like, oh, if you're in choir, you're gay. Oh, okay. Seems pretty stupid, but whatever. But yeah, I just remember the switch from sixth to seventh grade from going, I could care less about girls to that's all I cared about. So always hetero, always, interested in girls and women. And it's just been that way my whole life. So, but, I mean, we make joke like I love a lot of what would be called gay music, right? Like
Mm.
I've grown up listening to all kinds of music and but if you think I'm gay because I love Depeche Mode, well, I'm sorry for you because
Yeah.
Depeche Mode's fucking awesome. And so
Yeah.
I've seen Erasure multiple times. They're fantastic. Like, I love musicals. I've been musicals. Like, it's just on and on and on where you're just like, I don't know. You want to think that, so I've never fought it. I've always made it, it's always made me laugh. And if a woman ever felt that way, I'd be like, well, I can show you. So there you
Mm. Did you ever talk about sex with brothers, friends, anyone like that in your formative years? Or did you just like learn on the fly?
Yeah, it was definitely on the fly.
Okay.
Definitely on the fly. It wasn't. I was very much a loner. I was very much kept to myself. I had a few close friends, but there wasn't major sexuality. We just talked about girls. But there was never major talks. So there was definitely learning on the fly in that regard. And like I said, my introduction to pornography, like most men my age, as young men, were the unmarked VHS tapes when your father would tape the Playboy channel and just slide them underneath with all the other VHS. And, there might be a taping of Rocky 3, and there also might be a tape with, who knows, a game show. And, oh, this one's blank. Let's put that one in. So the introduction was very much on the fly. And I think for a lot of men my age,
Yeah.
it was on the fly.
That is what I've gleaned from my personal experiences and interviewing people. This is, yeah. Okay, are you the type of straight though that would have a threesome with another penis person?
I would. I never have. Full
Okay.
disclosure, I have with two women,
Yeah,
but not with another man. Yeah, I wouldn't be against it. It's just something that hasn't happened. I've certainly been in a room
yeah.
where like another couple was having sex and I was having sex with someone, but
Ooh.
there was, never in that regard. And again, you're talking to a pretty vanilla guy in regards to my own life and lifestyle. So never been in an
Cool.
orgy, never done a gangbang, never, there's lots of nevers. And
Mhm.
and if I die tomorrow and it doesn't happen, hey, I'm good.
Yeah.
House money from here on out. I have a friend of mine that constantly wants me to find us someone for that because he
Mhm.
wants to, not
Mhm.
to be around me. He's just a wild person who is like, find us a certain girl and let's party. It's like, all right, I'll keep trying.
Okay, so you know a guy who's down if someone. Okay, okay, that's good to know. That's funny. I feel like I'm always the person also getting asked, and I'm like, it's not always quite like that. Okay. What have you learned about sex through having it over the years? Like, what do you love? What are you into? It sounds like you are self-described vanilla, but I think vanilla is the most delicious base flavor. So tell us, like, sensations, experiences, or just anything that you have kind of like, even cool locations on your travels. Like, what stands out when you reflect upon your sexual learnings?
I think a lot goes with experiences, whether it was with a partner at the time, and a lot of funny experiences. I'll tell you a funny one, and I'll leave names out. This person and I were getting to know each other, and then on a whim, we decided to go to another city. I'm going to be so vague, just for the sake.
Yeah, yeah,
But we
perfect.
decided to we decided to go out of town, a road trip, and we couldn't find a hotel, and this and that. We finally found a hotel. They didn't have rooms, and they were going to get us a room somewhere else. And we were drinking, and push comes to shove, and then before you know it, we hadn't done anything, and now we're having sex, and we were both intoxicated. And I did a full flip off the bed and stuck my landing, and then we continued having sex. And I was just so impressed with myself,
I'm very impressed.
like a full flip off the bed. And then the next day, we were at breakfast and we just looked at each other, hung over as fuck, and we're like, "Here we go. We're gonna do it. We're a partner. Let's go." And we were together almost 4 years, 3 or 4 years,
Wow.
4 years. Um, so that was fun.
Yeah, you're super vanilla. Uh-huh.
I mean, I was at a Narcos style party in the middle of Pereira, Colombia, pre-pandemic. This party had 100 cam models. It had a 7-course meal. It had other things that might not be legal. It had fireworks. It had a stage. It was on a property. We stayed on the lot, and I wound up hooking up with like the most gorgeous Colombian girl. And like, but then I also remember like it not working. Like it works, but only to a certain extent because I might have partaken in party favors and whatnot.
Sure, sure,
I
that's a
did.
thing.
It was straight out of fucking Narcos. It was insane,
Whoa.
and I had never been to a party like that, and I will never be at a party like that again. No question. It was wild. And but I just remember like I think we were in the shower and I'm like, oh God, just get through the night. Just don't be a loser. And then I remember waking up the next day and she was gone already. But I just looked out the window and saw daylight and I was just like, where am I? I was hungover for like 2 days after that, but it was wild. It was wild. And the ratio was insane. It was one of those ratios that you're like, remember this. This might never happen again in your life kind of ratios. And that was fun. I never had sex at the Playboy Mansion. I certainly met girls and went to parties there and had a lot of fun, but did not have sex there. And the Playboy Mansion is absolutely best. It's absolutely best. It was so incredible to go to events there. It was really incredible.
Well, what do you remember? What was it like?
It was just, people would rent it out for parties from all different aspects of businesses and whatnot. And, whether I was going with clients or with friends or, yeah, you saw the grotto and got tours. And my favorite thing were the toucans because he had all these different animals there. So you get a tour from one of the playmates and you're like, oh, and there's the toucans. And you're just like, there are fucking toucans in the middle of fucking Southern California. Wow. They had a golf tournament at the LA Open last year. One of the holes is backed up to the mansion and the birds still live there. Whoever owns the house, whatever, but the birds are still there. So there's birds chirping on like the eighth tee while professional golfers are teeing off in a major. And so it became a story during the tournament. Like, yeah, there's a certain tee box backed up to a certain house where there are certain birds going off. So, I mean, I went to Japan, went to Tokyo for 40 hours and I was making out with a girl at 4 a.m. that I just met that evening before flying back to the States. I was just, I've had incredible trips through Europe and South America, just ridiculous. Colombia,
Yeah.
been there 7 times.
Oh, it's one of my favorite places. The nicest people. They're so nice to me. Everyone was so nice. I
They're
love it.
I think they're arguably some of the happiest people.
Yeah. Literally, I was like in a hot tub and people came and they were like, "Can we join you?" I mean, my broken Spanish, but they were just like, "Don't you love our beautiful country? Do you want to have some of our beautiful drinks? Come be with us. You're so beautiful." I was like, "Yes, everything is beautiful. Life is beautiful here."
I met a beautiful girl in Barranquilla, and she took me to her family's, and she was poor,
Mm,
and I was in a barrio, and I had one of the best New Year's I ever had because we just partied.
yeah.
They just partied. They fed me so well,
Yeah.
and just had this beautiful night with this beautiful people that are just like, oh my God, this is one of the poorest areas I've ever seen. And they were just so giving and so happy. And you're just like, it just proves, what money can and can't do, but also what when you can, if you've got just enough, you can make something out of nothing. And I felt very safe and I had a beautiful experience. It was really lovely.
Okay, you said that it sounds like women approach you where you like aggressive ones they just pick. Do you just get picked or do you have some moves? Like you just like you meet people in real life.
I don't think I have moves. I really don't. I mean, my biggest rule is always end with a question. And you'll learn really quickly if someone wants to continue the conversation. It all starts with the conversation. And I'm not a big whiner guy, and I'm fairly shy in that regard.
Really?
But yeah, I definitely am. So, excuse me. So it's go with the flow. If it feels the relationships that have happened, I've been go with the flow in that regard and see where it goes. So I was going to Dallas, Texas. I was working at Elektra Records in 1997, well, 96 to 99. And I was going to Dallas. I had 3 different artists performing. And so I went to Dallas chat room. Hey, what's going on? Blah, blah. And I start talking to this girl. And we don't meet that trip, whatever. But we kept talking. So on. So she flew to LA. to meet me. I went out the night before. And for what it's worth, a lot of my stories involve alcohol. God bless it. But I went to a show and got wasted. And I show up the next day and my office hung, forgetting this person was showing up. The first time we meet is she's sitting in my office. Nobody in the office knew, like no one knew anything. And I took her to my house and we started a long distance relationship until she moved to LA. But an AOL chat room, didn't meet in Dallas. She comes to LA and that's how it started. So, but I'll never forget her sitting across in a chair from my desk, me just hurting and me just going out and looking at people in the office and going, nobody fucking knows why this girl is here, how she got here, how we met, like nothing. And it was so taboo at the time, very taboo. It was very funny in that regard, but it was a great relationship for a few years.
Mm, wow. Is there anything that you like haven't explored yet that you want to explore? Like what's on the bucket list? And it doesn't have to be sexy, but also sexy.
I've been fortunate. I've seen incredible sports, seen my teams win championships. I've been to over 900 concerts in my life. I reached a point in my life for my own mental sanity where I'm like, it's house money now. Whatever happens, whatever I do, so be it. I don't have an answer to that question where I go, oh, it's X, Y, or Z. I don't know. And there's an unknown. I think it's the unknown I enjoy the most. My a friend of mine reached out to me and said, do you want to come with me to Israel, which I've been to in 25 for an excursion? And he has this group and they go to different parts of Israel and the culture and everything. And I'm like, man, I'd love to spend a couple weeks in Israel. I've spent time there, but to be with a group and this and that. Someone calls me tomorrow and says, hey, do you want to do this? Yeah, I went to the World Cup on a whim. I called it my weekend in the Middle East because I was watching the World Cup in 22 going, man, I should just go. Like I have a laptop, booked a flight, booked a hotel, wasn't that expensive. And before I knew it, I was there for the weekend. And before I knew it, I had a ticket to the final that I got 4 hours before the match from a guy I met in the lobby. So, I mean, I can't tell you what it's going to be, but it's going to be something, you know? I turned 40 in Havana. I want to turn 50 in Havana. That's my goal.
Ooh. Oh, I
Or
love
for
that.
this year to go back. I've been there twice and I have an affinity for the island. To answer your question, I don't know, but I loved that part because hopefully I'm going to be sitting with you in a few years. We're going to do this again. And I'm going to be like, remember that question you asked me? Well, here's what happened in that time.
Oh, I love updates. I love updates. And I also would love to know if you have any like dream projects or clients or like work related future things. It sounds like you're a very go with the flow Virgo. I don't think I've ever met a Virgo as go with the flow as you.
Pretty bizarre. I mean, I proudly work with the AVN Expo, which is the largest adult
Yeah.
entertainment expo in the world. And it's post COVID, it's been exciting to come back and see people that I see once a year and meet people. And we're back at the Virgin in the end of
Yes.
January,
I
so I'm
want to
really
go.
excited
Yeah.
about that. And it'll be another incredible experience. And for me, I love the clients that I have, whether it's content creators, adult film stars, musicians, getting hired by more music stuff again, and I take that on and off. Independent film, outside of adult, mainstream independent film, different types of projects that I definitely love. And there's an unknown aspect there because a lot of my clientele has been word of mouth where someone goes, hey, I worked with Brian, you should hire him, so on and so forth. So it's a constant in that regard. And this time of year being at the holidays, things winding down,
Hmm.
I get to sort of settle in, get everything in place and get ready for the new year. I do enjoy that aspect. Not a fan of the holidays, point blank, to be honest, but I do enjoy the setup for the new year. And then before you know it, you have CES and I might have clients there and we've got AVN and different expos and whatnot. So January is a crazy month. And I, in the spring, I've planned out some international travel that I'm excited about.
That's awesome. So you're like working with AVN, but then I bet you also have clients who are like there. Is it just crazy for you? What is that like?
Yeah, it's insane. So my team, we work on helping our clients, helping all the exhibitors, helping everybody,
Okay.
with helping all the media that we have. We'll have another 750 to 1,000 media people attending. It's crazy. But my first AVN, my first ever going was 2000. My first working with the AVN team was 2007. And then I wound up taking it over in 2013, I think. So it's been almost a decade getting the honor of being the publicist for the company and the expo. So it's very much something I keep an eye regard.
Mm, love that. I would love to hear, with all your wisdom, how do you think we collectively can create a more connected, loving, woo-filled world?
Get off our phones.
Mm.
It's sad.
And then do what instead?
Look at each other. Talk to each other. We're getting away from it. You think about it, and listen, pot kettle, guilty as charged, but we're getting to a place that's getting scary in the aspect of the lack of human connection, the lack of desire of human connection. And so I wish I could tell you where it's going to go. I don't know. But we've seen it move so fast. We've seen technology in our lifetime move so fast. But the basic necessity of a hug and physical touch that we all need in one way, shape, or form can't get away from it. You can't. And so if everyone can take it upon themselves to just be kind and loving to another, not easy. I wish I could sit here and preach kumbaya and shit. I can't do it. I've got issues myself. There's pieces of judgment that go around, but you do your best. You do your best to look out for one another, to help one another, and that's the best you can do.
Totally.
And ultimately, you look in the mirror and go, "Am I doing what I can to make someone else feel good?" That's the biggest. Those are incredible challenges.
Yeah. Well, and as I hear you talk, I can't help but wonder, like, do you think it really is a lack of desire, or do you think that there is a spike in anxiety and fear when it comes to how to connect? Because I notice we don't have too many social norms as we grow outside of our little community bubbles.
Yeah, I think it's both. I think there's more.
Mm,
Lack of desire, anxiety, fear, um, being pulled in a million directions.
yeah.
YOLO, FOMO, all the acronyms. I think it all builds up and affects us, not just one thing. So we have to be stronger than those, right? We have to push through those. Not easy, very challenging. Like I said, I'm a yoga addict now. I'm in a class almost 5 nights a week and a few times on the weekend. It's
Mm,
just like where I find my clarity, my sanity, is to get on a mat and sweat it out and be in my thoughts, right? Because that's where you are when you're on a yoga mat. Say what you will, the biggest challenge is between your ears, not the physical part. So that's the aspect that will, do your thing. So we could list all the reasons and all of the effects that we deal with. They're challenges, and we have to overcome them, every single one. And hard to do it alone, easier with a team, and hopefully people can find those people that will help them in those regards.
oh, yeah. Okay, last question.
Yeah.
How do you like to spread ripples of love?
Oh man, ripples of love. Well, I would just hug everybody, which
Yeah,
I
you are a
feel
hug person. I love that.
I would hug everybody and then I'd get in trouble. But nonetheless, I will hug everybody.
I do
I'm a
too.
hugger. I'm a believer. I'm going to put my hand on your back. I'm going to touch you. You know, I just, if touching, and mind you, in a proper manner,
Yeah, yeah.
but if physical touch is wrong, I don't want to be right because it
Mm,
is arguably one of the greatest sensations.
yeah,
It's that feeling.
yeah.
It makes everything better.
It gives us oxytocin and it helps us feel connected to people. It's important.
Yeah. So I would say touch.
I love that. Lovers, you can follow him at BSGPR on X and Instagram. Brian, thank you so much for being a guest with us.
Thank you for having me. This was so much fun. I've definitely opened up to you in a public forum that I never have. So you made me feel incredibly comfortable, and I appreciate it.
I am honored. To me, that is spreading ripples of love, sharing your stories and being willing to meet me. So thank you.
Thank you.
Lovely woo humans, that is our show. Remember to follow your hearts and follow your parts and follow me in family-friendly internet places at Lunar Woohoo, or if you're in naughty internet places, at Lunar Secrets. Visit howtowoo.fyi for links to everything. You can support our awesome show on Patreon for early ad-free episodes. You can worship me virtually on OnlyFans or Sextpanther, or we can work together in person in a number of excellent creative capacities. You can also ask a question, share a story, or apply to be a guest at howtowoo.fyi if you want to be on the show. And tell a friend to help us grow. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and let me know how you're spreading ripples of love.